Alright, guys, so natural versus unnatural. Which one should you do? I mean, if you've been following my stuff, you already know the answer to this, but I want to talk a bit more about TRT and Clomid versus building the foundations naturally and kind of like what the difference is between the two different paths and what you could expect. TRT, for those who don't know, is testosterone replacement therapy. You're essentially getting syringes, needles, and syringes of like synthetic testosterone. Hopefully, with a doctor's help, by the way, Jesus. Injecting yourself, and TRT, what most people don't realize, is for life. Once you go down that path, it's very, very difficult to come off without having problems. I mean, you can do it, but TRT is not like cycling steroids. Like once you're doing it, you need to do this for the rest of your life. It's a lifelong decision. So make sure before you go down that path, you better be committed. That's testosterone replacement therapy. Some issues with that. I've briefly touched on these before, but to go into a bit more detail, you get a lot of carnivore guys talking about red meat and eggs and how cholesterol is not something you should worry about in general for your health. Like when your blood work comes back and your cholesterol is high or out of range, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I tend to agree, especially for naturals. The problem is when you get a bunch of dudes who scroll on X on Twitter and they eat these carnivore diets and then they go on TRT. Now you've got a problem. You're compromising your heart health because cholesterol doesn't work the same when you're on TRT. When you're a natural, you need the cholesterol for various hormones, testosterone being one of them. When you're on TRT, you don't need it because you've already got it running through your body, and the cholesterol becomes more problematic and compromises your heart health. And there's a whole bunch of problems that comes when you mix TRT with a high meat, high red meat, high egg diet. So something to seriously bear in mind. Even if you're lean, even if you've got low CRP, low inflammation levels, you're still putting unnecessary stress on your heart. So that's one thing. Another thing is there's loads of guys, and it does my head in, who are well over 15% body fat. Like they're chubby, they're overweight, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that if you do something about it. But jumping on testosterone replacement therapy is not the answer. Not only does testosterone, it does make everything easier. It can make fat loss easier, maybe indirectly. It's definitely anabolic. Testosterone is huge for muscle gain. You're not going to get jacked with low T, it's impossible. But if you've got really bad eating habits, if you're ordering from Deliveroo every night, you drink way too much alcohol, having 1,000 synthetic fake testosterone running through your system isn't going to fix those awful habits. You still have to fix those habits yourself. You have to stop eating the sugar, stop eating the seed oils and all the junk food. You've got to start cooking a bit more. You've got to put down the bottle of beer or whatever. Testosterone won't make you do that. You still have to do that yourself. And so if you're 22% body fat and you've got all this test running through you, it ends up aromatizing into estrogen even more than you already were doing. So your estradiol goes through the roof. You get the big puffy face and, a bunch of other problems, emotional problems. Sex drive just disappears. You struggle to maintain an erection, all that stuff. And this is because you've gone on TRT when you shouldn't have done. You didn't have the fundamentals, the naturals things sorted out. So that's testosterone. There's a whole bunch of problems. It's a lifetime commitment. Whereas if you just do the natural stuff, not only is it's not necessarily free, but you're not injecting yourself. You don't need doctor's appointments. Not only is it like that, but there's literally no downside to doing the natural stuff. You can have as much red meat and eggs as you want, within reason. especially eggs. There's no real limits on that stuff. The leaner you get within reason, the easier everything's going to be. You're not going to have to worry about estrogen if you're 12% body fat. It's just not going to be a thing. So the natural baselines, nothing bad happens when you improve your diet, the minerals, the vitamins, selenium, that kind of stuff. You improve your lifestyle, sunlight or red light therapy, as I spoke about in the previous video. Stress levels. You improve your sleep. These fundamental lifestyle, fundamental natural testosterone pillars, if you like, these things serve you forever. Whereas testosterone or TRT or Clomid, which is the other kind of unnatural thing. You're not natural if you take Clomid, just to clarify. The problem with those things is they don't necessarily serve you for life, because if you stop taking them, obviously you were reliant on these things to get you high T in the first place. You were unnatural. You weren't relying on the natural stuff. When you stop taking them, what do you think is going to happen to your test? It's going to come straight back down again. And whereas if you improve the natural things and you make it a lifestyle, not only are you not compromising your health, you're also going to make sure that it lasts you for the rest of your life, as long as you keep doing it. And eating boiled eggs for breakfast every day and having some Brazil nuts every other day, these are not difficult habits, and they're not expensive either. And there is no reason on earth that you couldn't do that for the rest of your life. Whereas popping Clomid pills or injecting yourself with test, there's a whole bunch of reasons you might want to quit at some point in the future. So yeah, natural definitely wins for a whole host of reasons. Just a bit more on Clomid. Clomid and clomiphene is a drug that stimulates luteinizing hormone, which is a precursor to testosterone production. If you take loads of Clomid, it's going to ramp up the LH production, which almost always ramps up your test production as well, your natural production of test. But it does have problems. Obviously, you don't want to be doing that for the rest of your life. And it does impact your brain. Anything that, even though, you could sugarcoat it and say it's kind of like, oh, but it's your own testes' production of testosterone. It's the same thing with growth hormone secretagogues. You can take things that will make you produce more growth hormone naturally, but it's still not natural because it affects your brain. The stuff that's making you produce it at a higher rate affects your brain. And with Clomid, a lot of guys, they can't sleep properly because their brain is so wired from all this LH production. So there's always a hidden cost with the unnatural stuff. Whether your doctor tells you about this or not is up to him or her. What goes up, especially if it's unnatural, will end up coming down eventually. It's never as good as it sounds. Whereas the natural stuff, you really can double and triple your test naturally and keep it up there for decades. You're not going to be 1,000 tests when you're 70 naturally, but in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you could be 700, 800. Loads of guys are doing it, and that is how things should be. The human body is supposed to be doing that. The male body is meant to be doing that. I'm not talking about anything that the human body shouldn't be doing, because when you hit 30 years old and you can't even maintain an erection, you don't need TRT. You need to just fix your body on a basic level. You shouldn't be having these problems in your 30s. And 40s and 50s, it's supposed to slowly go down, but it's supposed to slowly go down 1% a year from 8 or 900, not from 400. Going slowly down from 400 is not a good place to be. You're not going to get rich doing that. You're not going to get jacked doing that. You're not going to be living an amazing life. So naturally, the earlier you start, the better. You want to naturally get it to 800 plus, and then once you've hit your peak, yes, you're going to slowly decline over time, but you're going to be living an amazing life whilst doing that, and you're going to be feeling good. And it's not just testosterone; it's free T, it's estrogen, it's cortisol, it's all sorts of stuff. But that is it. Natural wins. It's not even close. If any of you guys have any questions, by the way, about this stuff, natural or unnatural, obviously comment below. If you're interested in natural solutions, probably the 20th time I've said that in this video, click below, check out the ebooks and blog posts and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.